In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of schools in Edmonton. This video is all about the pros and cons of schools in Edmonton. I'm a local Edmonton resident and I have lots of friends that are teachers in the Edmonton Public. I have lots of friends that homeschool. I also have friends in the Edmonton Catholic School and know of moms that have their kids in private school. So as a mom of 3 kids and friends of lots of moms, I've kind of compiled a list of the pros and cons of schools in Edmonton. Of course, this is an opinion piece, and I'm not going to talk necessarily about specific schools at Edmonton. You definitely need to go and check out the list of schools, depending on the requirement of what you're looking for in terms of academics, maybe specialty languages, or trades, or arts. Those are types of things that you need to look into, and that's not what we're going to cover in this video. We're going to talk about what the advantages are in terms of having your kids here in school in Edmonton versus maybe where you live currently, and you can compare the two and see maybe what's better or not. So before we start, I just want to quickly let you know, I mentioned this earlier, we have 4 different ways that your kids can be in school in Edmonton. They could be attending the Edmonton Public School system, they can be attending Edmonton Catholic School system, they could be attending a private school, or they could be homeschooling. Now, you can do this anywhere from kindergarten all the way to grade 12, and kindergarten in Alberta is optional, so you don't need to have your kid in school. There is also Montessori and preschool options. Now, once you get into junior high and high school, that junior high is from grade 7 to 9, and high school in Edmonton is grade 10 to 12. The choices and amount of schools drastically lessens. There's definitely more elementary schools at this moment because we do live in a young city, and the high schools are a little bit older in age, and we'll talk about that right now. So one of the cons of schools in Edmonton is they're older, physically older. We typically don't renovate, Edmonton Public doesn't renovate the older buildings, and so these are the more centrally located schools. Now, they do have new schools in the new suburbs, but another con is that they're usually always full. So even if you do live in the area that the school is located, that's not a guarantee that you'll get in. You might have to go into a lottery system, which one of the moms also said that's one of her cons for schools in Edmonton is the fact that your kid has to be in lottery. Like, it doesn't matter if you sign up before the other 50 people, it doesn't matter. They pick a name out of the hat if the school is full. There are pros of having your kids in school in Edmonton. Now, there are a lot of options for kids in terms of what they're looking for. If your kids are looking for a newer experience, those new schools in the new areas, they are state of the art. They're really nice, they're state of the art technology, and the building itself is extremely nice and lots of things for the kids to do. Another pro of schools in Edmonton is there are a lot of specialized schools and a lot of options. And so if your kid wants to learn Mandarin, there's Mandarin immersion, there's German immersion, there's French immersion, there's also Spanish immersion. There's lots of options for your kids for languages. There's also an art school. The Victoria Composite High School is an art school and heavily emphasized on that. There's also sports-focused schools as well. And believe it or not, there's a Suzuki school, which is a private school that is focused on, you know it, music. So there are lots of options, and that's a big pro. Another big pro of schools in Edmonton is they have lots of green space, lots of space for the kids to run around and have recess time or to hang out if they're in high school. So definitely those are some of the pros of schools in Edmonton. Another pro of schools in Edmonton there are busing, especially Edmonton Catholic High School has a lot of great busing. In Edmonton Public, that could be a con or a pro. It really depends on the school and location that you live in. I know it seems that they don't have as much busing options as Edmonton Catholic, but that being said, they still have a lot of busing. So if your kid is going to a school that's, not walking distance, you can actually get them on a busing system and they can actually take the bus to school and you don't have to worry about them going on an Edmonton Transit bus. So another con of Edmonton schools is that the locations. Maybe you want to actually send your kid to school in your neighborhood so they can come home for lunch or walk home or to school. That, unfortunately, is nothing that can be done. The Edmonton Public School system changes their boundaries, and you have to check out the Find a School tool, which we'll put a link down below in terms to figure out what school your kid can actually go to. Now, this one I don't know if it's a pro or con because it's all relative in terms of what you believe is the good classroom size. 28 to 30 kids seems to be the regular size of classrooms in Edmonton. So you tell me in the comments if that's pro or con, because I don't know what you're comparing it to. If you're used to seeing kids at 35 classroom or more, then obviously 28, 30 is better. If you're used to smaller classroom sizes, then this might be a con for you. It could be a pro as well, because maybe it's good that your kid is in a larger classroom setting. In Edmonton, we also have split classes. Now, it depends on the school and depends on the enrollment. You can have kids in a grade 3-4 split, or you can have them just only grade 3. That can be a pro for some parents who like the fact that the kids are not just with one specific grade, but other parents don't like it because they don't want the other grades mixing. So we do have kindergarten to grade 9 schools, K-9 schools, and that can be a pro because now the family can all be dropped off in one location all the way up until grade 9. But that's also a con because you've got the older kids in the same school as the younger kids, and especially if you don't have siblings, it's not necessarily a pro in that regards. Now, I know those schools do keep the kids separated and have different recess times, so they do try to keep separation, but that could be either a pro or con depending on what your perspective is. Another pro of having your kids in school in Edmonton is you get to choose. You get to choose how you want your kids schooled, whether they are in a public school system, Catholic school system, private school system, or homeschooled. In Alberta, with homeschooling, they do give you funding, and it depends on if you're going to do traditional homeschooling, which is fully parent-led. You get a certain amount of money. You'll get less money than if you were to do blended. Blended is both a parent-led and teacher-led schooled system, so you work on schooling your child together. And then there's the fully aligned, which gets even more money because it's the teacher plans everything, and it's pretty much school at home. Now, it's not what you were used to seeing a couple years ago. It's actually teachers that's all they do is teach kids online, and they have different ways. When you're in junior high and high school, there's a lot more independence that's given to the child versus in elementary age. Now, this can be a pro and a con. It could allow you to have more flexibility, and maybe this is what your child needs, or maybe it's not a great option for you. You don't want your kid to be at home. There are options for kids to go to the gym and go to do other social events with kids with homeschooling, but I know that having that as an option in Alberta is a huge advantage for people coming in from out of province because they don't have that kind of freedom and they have to choose one of the schools that they're going to. Now, one of the cons of private school obviously is the cost. That cost is taken on by yourself, and if you have a specialty school, depending on what school you're doing at Edmonton Public, there is some added costs. And I would say one of the cons of putting your kids in Edmonton Public, Edmonton Catholic, is that there's fundraising involved, and that's never fun for the parents because typically you're the one doing the fundraising for the child. So that is a con. However, the pro is, I remember growing up, going out and doing the fundraising. It made for good memories, and it allows the child to grow and in ways that you wouldn't have grown if you didn't have to do the fundraising. So you take it for what you will. What are your pros and cons of schools in Edmonton if you live in Edmonton? Pop them in the comments below.